Tied. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Untied Talk.
Welcome.
We are back and we are doing things a little differently this time. Yeah,
Yep. We must say season 2 has come with a lot of changes.
a lot of changes. As you can see, we're down to two
Just the two of us, Wadzanai.
and Tare. So now we thought let's add some visuals so that you can see who we are. So if you're not really a podcast person,
Yeah.
we've got the visuals for you on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and if you've been with us from season 1, now you finally get to put a face to the voice.
Exactly. And you know who exactly it is, and you can see us trying to look decent on camera.
Yeah, and like working on our facial expressions.
Exactly.
I must say, this does come with a lot of pressure. It's beautiful, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And I mean, it's so different.
Very different.
It's a new level of exposure
Yeah.
that personally I am not like, see, blooper already. But it's a level of exposure that I'm not used to, because being in front of the camera just changes so much.
It does change a lot of things.
And then also I decided to add an extra layer of judgment because the piece that's hanging in the back is something that I painted. So yeah, tell me what you think about that.
Yeah. I personally love it.
Yeah, and I
think
mean,
for butterflies as well, so.
there we go. And, it's also something I did for my 30th. So there's a bit of what's an eye in there as well. So it's something, it represents the both of us because I had different friends paint each little square and then I painted on top of it because their blessings were kind of pushing me into this new decade. And
Look
it's
how
been
beautifully it turned
amazing.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Life in the 30s.
exactly.
I mean, this is most of what we're talking about anyway.
Exactly.
Through the lens of a 30-year-old going onwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are, season 2. We will let you know what we're talking about in this season.
Yeah.
And
It's going to be interesting because it's going to put us on the spot. Well, me, because, yeah, my Shona leaves room for judgment sometimes.
I think that goes to say for everyone in our generation, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's even worse for our kids.
I think so.
It's even
So,
worse for
so that we don't leave you
our
hanging.
kids. Yeah.
We're going to talk about culture this season.
Culture.
Yeah, and specifically our culture. We come from Zimbabwe. Right now we're in Harare, which is the capital city. I am Shona.
I'm Shauna as well.
Yeah. So
Zezuru.
I'm Manika. So yeah, we're just going to dive into that and kind of just talk about the different things when we think about culture, what comes to mind to us. And what that says in our lives.
Yeah.
Culture. Saka, to put words on the spot, I'll start. Magadiko soko.
Soko Magadiko. There you have it. That's our totem.
Yeah.
We use it because it is a part of culture. So culture is defined as a way of life, generally. So when you look at how people behave, what people wear, what food people eat, and stuff like that. So that's just stuff we're going to be talking about, what it means to us,
Yeah.
what was taught to us, what is being passed on, and stuff like that. To be honest, we're having to sort of find out a lot of stuff on our own, depending on what we want to know and how far we want to go in our identity.
Yeah.
This is because, I think it's because most of our history is not really written down.
It's
We
oral.
used to rely on oral. That's how stuff was passed on, ngano and stuff like that. So because of the distortion in that pattern, a lot of information has been lost.
Yeah.
And I think most of it was because probably some of our parents didn't want to pass on some of the things because of the negative things that it came with, the
And
negative stuff that comes with culture, and also just maybe going with other things that are attractive in other cultures. from
True.
exposure.
I think there's that, and then I also think that I was about to use a word that put a lot of people on blast. I shall not use that word. I was going to say disconnect. I'm
But
staying
this is
away from that
untied.
word. But what I was going to say is, I think that for our parents in particular, it may have been they were torn between culture, tradition, and religion.
Okay.
Because I feel, Zimbabwe is a Christian state. I feel that Christianity, the way that it was understood by their parents and how it was passed down, kind of then spoke into rejecting certain aspects of our culture and tradition, so not then doing certain things. And in some cases, it was taken a bit far because there was just no separating what is okay under the guise of Christianity,
Right.
and what is okay as your identity and as a person. So, for example, I have a lot of family that will say, "Don't call me by my totem because it's not Christian." But for me, I'm a proud Soko, right? Proud Soko Mkanya, and over the past few years, I've reveled in it. So, like, even now at family events, I mean, my grandmother passed away late last year. And I remember sitting there. For the longest time, I hated being called my nini by my cousins, right? Because my dad and my uncle both have daughters. Well, had. So my uncle had, because he's late, and his daughter also passed away. So I'm the only girl amongst the boys. I'm the only Chirewa girl. And all my cousins, so my dad's sister's children, call me my nini because that's what I am to them, right? Because their mothers are my tetes. And yeah. So I hated it for the longest time because it was always my nini, my nini, my nini, my nini. And to me, there was just so much, I don't know, I heard it with so much mockery. And it stressed me out. So recently at the funeral, I remember at the Nyaradzo, I actually realized, I was like, wait a minute. Before you guys send me, even if you're older than me,
Yeah.
you have to acknowledge, Kuti, I am a mother here. Like, when you are counting mothers,
Yeah.
I'm included in
Yeah.
that motherhood. You
Yeah.
know, like, yes, you say you're 6 mothers, right? In the number 7, because I'm your small mother, right? Because that's
now
the
you
literal
understand the
translation.
hierarchy.
Exactly, that's the literal translation of my nini.
Yeah.
So I literally now revel in it because I'm like, for the longest time, I've been refusing my place and my position and my stature in this family.
And yet.
And yet I have so much power, right?
Yeah.
So I think what I think for my kids, what is most important is just teaching them these things so that they understand. Because my daughter is in the same position because my husband is one of the 2 boys that's in the family, right?
Right.
So she's in the same position. She's got Anatete, and she must understand that she's my nini, so she's literally the small mother to the Zinza, right?
Yeah.
She must understand that and grow
how it
up
works.
knowing what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like what you said that, for us to teach them, we need to understand that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the past generations used to just follow a lot of traditions and practices without any knowledge on why they were doing certain stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was driven by fear. And then this generation doesn't just follow blindly.
No. We ask questions.
And we ask a lot of questions.
Hey, we will
So
ask.
we're obviously not going to pass on something that we do not understand or something that does not make sense or something that is no longer relevant to our way of life.
True.
But because we still want to tap into the wholeness of our identity and where we come from and why we do and the certain things that we do, then obviously we incorporate all of that, but we also still need to understand certain things.
Yeah.
And I think our parents may have also experienced really terrible stuff.
True.
That just made them decide to protect us from
From it.
culture. Talking about stuff like kuroya, that stuff is real.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be like, I'm now all Christian and like whatever. But that stuff is there. And if they experienced that, grew up kumusha, seeing that, I do not judge anyone who decided to totally remove themselves from culture.
True.
And people who saw firsthand stuff like kids being killed because they're albino, because they're
Yeah.
premature,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So unfortunately, there are some things that tainted how we view culture.
True.
And so we haven't really had anyone who's really sort of fought for the good image of culture. So now when we look at, so what is culture? What is our culture?
That's true.
We don't even have like tangible stuff besides, yeah, we have few things like food that grows in our areas and stuff. But if
You
you
know,
look
even-
at, we don't really, it's hard to define.
It is. And I think also, like, we've lost so much because I know I have a friend who's very big on culture and sharing that with this generation and the next. And we went out to see her space, and I just thought, this is amazing. The amount of information she knew while we were walking around in this space. She wants to turn into a cultural village, a cultural center, cultural hub to
Wow.
teach young people about culture. I thought it was amazing because, like, you know, certain things of, she went with her family and someone said to her, don't cut that tree because that tree blesses the land or something. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember what it was. Forgive me, my friend. But it was along those lines, like that information that, you know, there's certain things that should be left the way they are because of what they bring into the earth and enrich the earth with, you know,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Or, you know, you can't say or do certain things in a specific place, especially if it's a place, you know, you know, because it will then have ripple effects on what you do or, you know, the things that come to you. I know it sounds very spiritual voodoo, like what.
Yeah.
But I think there's some basis to
Those
it.
are the
I
things.
think it may not be explained in the way that we understand now with all the information we have, but there is still something to it. So, for example, how there's certain roots that help, you know, medically, how
Yeah.
there's things that you shouldn't eat, certain fruits you shouldn't eat,
Yeah.
how to know those things. Yes, then it was explained in the most simplified way, but there's a reason to it.
There's
and
a
I think
reason.
it would be so beneficial if we started learning those things again.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Because
Like-
then we can fall in love with it.
exactly.
If people from long ago would follow stuff out of fear, you know, because there's a lot of stuff that was happening, and it's like fear of death, all the myths and stuff like that you know, that people followed, we should follow stuff because we believe in it, because we actually want to and are interested in it. So if I know that this tree thing that you're talking about brings this and stuff like that, then I'm gonna be interested in that process, and I'm also going to preserve that and pass it on with pride.
Yeah. It's interesting you're talking about this. I've been watching a lot of mystical fantasy type of shows. Well, they're called fantasy because of, you know, the whole spiritual, traditional culture type thing.
Yeah.
And it's not just in Africa. I was watching this show from Spain, and they had the beliefs of you can't cut certain trees in the forest or upset the forest because of the spirits and whatever. And yes, it's kind of maybe a bit far-fetched. Maybe. I'm not saying it is. But I remember watching it and thinking, don't do it. Like, you know, like there's just certain spiritual things. You don't understand where it's coming from. Just don't do it. Leave it alone. Like, why are you messing with the spirits? Like, just leave them alone, you know?
Yeah.
And as much as we have learned and can disregard certain things, there's just some things that happen that we can't explain. And I
Yeah.
feel it goes back to those things. Like we've lost the understanding of why certain things were the way they were, right? And as a result, we just do what we want and disregard what else is around us. It may not necessarily be spiritually linked,
Yeah.
but it could actually have ripple effects.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that actually makes sense if someone decided to break it down and go back and say, okay, I can prove this
is-
scientifically.
Yeah.
It's actually A, B, C, D, you know? So,
Yeah. That's a good point. And I also think, you know, it's unfortunate that some people actually use culture to oppress. those that do have the information, or those that distort it intentionally and decide to focus on like I said, the fear bit of it.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from how we were raised, how our parents were raised. When you're reprimanding your kid, instead of just saying, don't sit on the road because a car will bump you. Hey, ukagara road,
The motor.
like,
but I guess it's
Stuff like
because
that.
they know kids don't pay attention to things like that.
No.
Because if you think about it, Wadzi, if someone said to you,
No.
usagare pa road because unorwa nemota, iwe unotarisa kuti hapana mota. Saka
No.
you know, and yakauya ndinoinzwa ndinobuda muroad, right?
But then look at what it then did. Look at what it did. And that's what shaped the mindset that a lot of people have. And that's why we will run away from culture, because it's like, hey, bruh, me, I don't want to be bound by fear here. And I don't want to have anything to do with this stuff.
But you know, it's funny. The other day, my son jumped over my daughter. And I was like, do it again.
Oh my
Because she won't
goodness.
grow.
Do you believe in that though?
No, I don't. I don't know why I did it. I don't even know why I did
That's
it.
how powerful it is, because then it's in the mind. It's
Exactly.
The mindset.
Or even kuti
It
wakarowa
shaped your
nemutsvairo.
belief.
Sorry, for all those that don't understand, we will have subtitles on the YouTube channel. So you could go over, if you listen to the podcast, you could go over to the YouTube channel and, you know, watch it there so that you get the subtitles for the Shona. We're going to be speaking a lot of Shona and maybe some Debele throughout the season. So it might be beneficial for you. But, oh my gosh, I swear, some of those things. No.
Yeah. And it would be nice to know what you know as well.
Exactly.
Like, regarding
That
culture,
would
because
really
we're still
help.
learning. We really like getting into this whole totem thing and trying to learn more stuff about that. Like we said, most of the stuff is stuff that we've had to search for.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that's out there is all dependent on someone's narrative because of what they wanted to push at that time.
Yes, that's true.
So it's not that rich, and we could use more knowledge.
True. And I mean, I think also if they're people that actually know how to transcribe and write history, or, you know, the storytelling that is passed down orally, I think I encourage you to do it, because there's so much that's going to go with this generation that is leaving us now. Like, I have uncles and segurus that know so much that the moment they go, it's going to be lost forever.
Yeah.
Because no one's taken the time to actually transcribe it and write it down and pass it down. Because even if they do tell us orally, we don't remember the way they do.
Yeah, we don't.
That's actually just a fact.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of my dad. He's late now, but he always used to address us as royalty in the family, because we have the chieftains. We have that royalty.
Chieftaincy, is that the word? The chieftaincy. Well, help us out. Write it in the comments if you know what it is.
I come from Weza, and it's in our bloodline. So he always used to call us Mwenewazo, Kosazana, you know, my princess and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I grew up in that royalty, and I know that my roots are tied to that. And now I've got my uncles and other aunts who've been sharing on groups where we've actually come from, where that started, and how that's going. And I've been enjoying just learning this history, just knowing more stuff about where we come from, because I just think roots are important. Just knowing, because it's your identity at the end of the day.
It's who you are.
I know who I am as a child of God, and I know who I am because of my name and everything. But if I don't know my roots, and if I don't know
where you've come from,
the power that I have and all that royalty and all that stuff, I'm just talking about myself as an example. It's different for everybody. So I'm just saying this to encourage whoever's listening right now to just dig into your family history. Because also you get to know other things that just follow you in the atmosphere, that come from your roots. And you can only solve those things when you know that there was a Mbuya certain years ago who did this, and then this happened to her, and then this is why I'm affected by ABC. So culture, and even if you ignore it, it's in your life. It's always going to follow you. So it's just, you might as well just dig into it. Yeah, you can decide just how much you want to get into it. That's the good thing. You have the power to control what gets into your mind and how far you go into it. So that's good.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think lockdown and being at home has kind of allowed families to share information because our family on my maternal side is doing the same thing. And
Nice.
even the paternal side, actually,
Oh, good.
they started doing the same thing, sharing information, the family tree, breaking it
Yeah.
down, who's who and what. And it's really interesting sometimes. So, for example, it was my grandmother's birthday. She turned 80 in March.
Nice.
And we were talking about her great grandfather, or yeah, I think it's her great grandfather, who was an advisor to the chief,
Wow.
and how he then kind of he was an advisor to Lobengula or something. And because I looked at the picture, my grandmother came with all these pictures, and he had like holes in his ears, and I was like, Inga! Sekuru was kind of hip,
It
right?
was happening.
And my uncle was like, no, it's because he was an advisor to Lobengula, and he lived there, and what he went into this whole history of it. And I thought, amazing. I had no idea. And then it also kind of explains these, if you've met us and you know that side of my family, you know that we are very authoritative. And like we just take charge.
Yeah.
I think that's the running theme on that side of the family. We just take charge. Like
leaders.
if we're in a room where there's chaos, you'll see us at the forefront trying to organize and just make things work. It's a blessing and a curse. I must say. It's a blessing and a curse. But it's, that's when you start to kind of see and pick and see where certain things come from. Like you said, that certain things are passed down.
Why am I like this?
Exactly. Another thing on my father's side, my father's always called me Ashe. For the longest time, I didn't know why. And then I actually decided to ask, why Ashe? And he says it means princess. And because, somewhere, somehow, similar to what you're saying,
Yeah.
there's some royalty aspect in the blood. And I was like, oh, I am claiming that.
Right.
So everywhere I write Ashe Talemeredzwa,
Yeah.
Takudzwa, just to emphasize that. And there's power in telling yourself, certain things. Like, the confidence that comes with it. I mean, I
Yes.
even named my daughter Ashe.
Nice.
Because of the power in the word and what it means, And I think it's really important that we all just take time to understand where we come from. I mean, it may not be good, and you may not be as happy and ecstatic about finding out about who you are, based on what you find out, but there's so much power in it because then it allows you to navigate the rest of your life without
Yes.
having to, wonder where certain things that you do come from. Because you understand where it comes from and you know how to make a conscious decision to change it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be in charge of your life. Like if you know why you are the way you are, why you think like that, and why certain stuff is attracted to you, then you live a better life.
Yeah.
And you're more in control and you get to actually be more victorious, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then if we come back to the totem stuff that we're talking about, if we remove even just the spiritual aspect,
Yeah.
there's just the whole you don't want to get married to Hamayako and stuff. So
Let me elaborate
important to
on
know.
that.
It was used socially, Hanti.
It was. And it's also important to know, like, so for example, right, we're both Soko.
Yeah.
When we met, we just clicked like instantly. I mean, her husband the one time goes, oh my gosh, you are like my wife's soul sister. It's ridiculous. You two are the same person. It doesn't make sense. How is this possible?
Yeah.
And then when we started talking about our totems, I thought, there it is. It actually makes sense.
I mean.
Right? Same thing with a lot of my friends that are also Soko. It makes absolute sense why we are friends.
Yeah.
Because the traits, it's ridiculous. Some may be exaggerated, but they are exactly the same.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. It's,
Yeah.
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 So, there's so much power in totems. I look at my husband and his totem, he's Simboti. Guys, look
Yeah.
up what a leopard does. And then if you know my husband, you will know and understand. Kuti, okay, yes, there's power in totems. It actually makes absolute sense.
It does.
Because we have, I actually don't know. I would love to sit down and find out the history. I know that totem started, we were birthed from 4 totems, and then each totem kind of branched out from that. I remember having a conversation about this with my uncle because he's very big on culture. He's very big on knowing where you come from. Like, he's one of those people that if you say the person's name, he'll be like, oh, do vekwa vekuhondeka vanobva pamchanjanja paipai vekuti, interesting. So the other day I mentioned what Fungai's totem was, and he for some reason hadn't made it clicked in his head, and he's like, wait a minute, are you Simbotinewa? Whatever. So you guys migrated from whatever. So do you know that right now, and he kind of went into this whole thing about the history, about the totem, about the people, and it kind of elaborates who you are as a people. It shares the story of your people, and it's really interesting. I mean, I also then found out when I shared my totem that my father-in-law's mother was also Soko.
Wow.
So then you can then start to see the interconnections and the change that happens over generations and how it keeps coming back together. And, it's actually
beautiful.
pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
That's stuff that we shouldn't lose.
No, we shouldn't at all.
That is amazing stuff that we should not lose.
It's not at all.
So this season, as we talk about culture, we're going to be learning a lot as well. And
we're also
even
learning.
as we research, we are learning. And we hope if you have something that you want to share,
please
we're very open
send
to it.
comments and DMs on our social media handles,
Yeah.
Like, one thing we're still learning, we just discovered apparently that Sokom Kanya may not necessarily be a standalone totem on its own, that it falls under something else because there are only 5 types of Sokos, and Mukanya is not one of them, but Mukanya is a trait that is derived from one of them. So we're still on this discovery journey. We're going to actually figure this out, hopefully, during the season, and by the end of it, we will share what we know.
Yeah.
Because all our lives, we've just called each other Sogom Kanya because that was the totem we were
knew.
told.
Yeah.
That's what we knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like a lot of people, our generation, are actually trying to connect with their roots.
Yes.
If you look at how we're naming our kids, we're going back to Shona names with swag.
Yeah. With swag.
So we don't have a world full of Nyasha. Now it's like...
Or a word full of Takudzwas.
Yeah, it's a lot of nice
Case
Shona
in
names
point.
and a lot of a lot of creativity. I just think that goes to show that we are looking for we want to connect with what's within us.
Yeah.
And that's good. And we are also choosing the good. And so as we go on this journey, this cultural journey, I just think this is going to be fun. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, it is. Before I forget, as a shout out, and because we just love our totem so much, we decided to have this on our set. It's called Mwena Wajo Sense. It's actually it's really nice. It's really amazing. It's made with essential oils, handcrafted by a local artisan who so happens to have the same totem as us. But yeah, so, and also I've decided to be deliberate this season and either wear something by a local artisan or have jewelry by a local artisan. So you'll see that in the credits. And, just if you like it and you want to go and see what they do.
Yeah.
Because local is lacquer. Support local artists and, grow the industry.
Yeah. And it's been expanding now. When I look at it, it's getting more creative, I feel. Because we are getting more in touch with our identity. When we just try to imitate what we see out there and try to reproduce, of course we're not going to do it well because that's not our thing, right? But now you find that a lot of artists, a lot of creatives here in Zim are actually now trying to find, okay, so what's our thing?
What's our thing? What am I good at? What am I bringing to the table that makes it different? Because, a lot of people make jewelry, but you'll never find the same
thing.
It'll always be different.
Yeah, and you shouldn't try to do the same thing that someone else did. Hey. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. So this is our first episode.
Yes.
Introduction to culture. We hope you liked it.
Yeah.
We're very excited. And as Untied Talk, we'll just try to keep it as real as possible.
Yes, and would love to hear your feedback. Tell us what's working, tell us what's not. And we'll do our best to, incorporate all of it.
Yeah. So from us to you, this is Wadzanai.
With love,
With
this
love.
is Tare. Bye.
Bye.